Yo, what's up, family? Welcome back to P.B.M.P. This has been such a wonderful journey, but today's message is about how I messed up. Today's message is about how I was weak. The most important thing to any human being is our word. It is the one thing that we can or should be able to count on. And when we are the type of person that comes to us for ourselves, when we're the type of person that when we say a thing, we do a thing, that generates a security in our life that says anything that I say happens. Anything that I put out there, it comes to fruition. But it comes from a state of knowing who you are, what you're capable of, and never trying to be more than who you are. Like if you're a fish, for example, right, you wouldn't be boasting and beating your chest about how you're going to be the person that's going to be able to climb a tree. Like, no matter how big and bad you are, Mr. Fish, Mrs. Fish, the weakest squirrel is going to beat you up the tree. So you got to know who you are. You have to know where you are. You have to know what you are capable of. And it takes a certain amount of work for you to be able to get to the point where you're comfortable to move in the fashion of awareness of self. The way I move, right? If any of you have ever been in any of my accountability meetings, if we've ever had a one-on-one session, we set up goals in the understanding that life is going to happen. Like, you can't tell when you're going to get pulled over by a cop, or you're going to pop a tire, when somebody's going to jump on the train track and that's going to make you late from work. You don't know when your button is going to fall off, or you have a wardrobe malfunction in general. You don't know when you might have left your medication at home. Well, your probiotics, very important because you are pregnant, or you have a mental illness that you are trying to cope with on a day-to-day basis. Like, things happen, and when these things happen, it has a tendency to throw off our routine. If we have a routine. So that becomes the issue. We don't have a routine. We're getting up day to day just doing these things that we regularly do, but we're just doing it because we want to survive. We don't necessarily think that we can get these things or have the American dream, but you actually can. And I say that you can because there are people who do. There are people who come from where you come from, who have been raised in the same predicaments that you have, and they have somehow, through God, I'm not talking about people that's, you feel what I'm saying? But through God, they have found a way. They have let their gifts make room for them. You feel what I'm saying? So that in itself means it's possible, because no one is better than you, right? No one is better than you. Do you understand that? Like, I'm not going to yell, but we have to have some understanding. You feel what I'm saying? Understanding who you are, where you are, it allows you to become who you are meant to be, the person that you dream of being. So it is important, it is paramount. After you work on your relationship with God, you use that as a template for how you should be dealing with the relationship with self. I spoke a lot about the relationship with self being the most important relationship, but that's false. There's so many times where we have let ourselves down. We're talking about our word, right? And how we operate on the mysticism of the fact that we say a thing and a thing happens because we know who we are and we put ourselves in that space, right? So when you operate in that mysticism of your word, you are able to do more, you're able to go further. But when you do not operate in doing what you say, or your word and your actions lining up, then you can't even trust yourself. That becomes the issue. And when you can't trust yourself, and then you're listening to all these people say, hey, well, you need to work on your relationship with self. You need to be selfish. You need to stay alone. But you yourself are an unhealthy being. The way you are with you is egregious. The way you are with yourself is egregious, but you are being told to base your relationships, every other relationship, on how you treat yourself. But There's been no evidence that you actually have any love or respect, compassion, any care, any grace, nothing for yourself. So you are supposed to use that as the template. False. We get in touch with God. We get in touch with whatever your higher power is. I'm not here to disrespect anybody. And I actually love listening to all of the perspectives, because you see how it adds to the wholeness of what actually is. That's why definitions are important, because when I say you're too much, words mean things, and because you grew up a certain way, you've been through certain things, and words have been used divisively in your life, right? Specific to you. When you hear things, we hear. This is why, bro. This is why. P.B.M.P. Imagine every person that you disagreed with in the world, you just cut them off and stop talking to. I mean, if some of us had that strength to be able to do that, amazing, but we don't. So, like, what are we doing? I usually like to pass on a lesson, try to teach something. And, like I said, I first needed to tell you who, like, I am. If this is your first time here, I'm so glad you're here. If this is your first time checking in, tuning in, I'm Walts, and this is P.B.M.P. I used to call it Therapy Thursday. I'm gonna save that for another video. I'm gonna tell y'all why I changed the name, or I might not. Like, it's not even like y'all are committed enough, or I have, merchandise to make that. Like, we are not locked into anything. We're on a journey, like that, and we need to get that in fact. So back to I messed up. I finished reading the 5 love languages, and it was the first book that I decided to pick up on this journey of reading again. And I noticed that I was having issues with my reaction and the way that I was talking. I love my wife, but the way that I was talking back to my wife, sometimes it was just in the. I'll be completely honest. For a lot of y'all be good. It'll be chill. Good. Not me. I really think about the type of life that I want to have, the type of wife, the type of parents that I want my children to have, and all of that needs to be in, the order needs to be processed right now. So when we try to collect, when we try to receive, certain things have already been done. So my reaction now has been a bit egregious. It's been something that I can't really stand behind 10 toes and put my word behind, because that's not the type of husband that the wife that I want deserves. Does that make sense? I read the 5 love languages, and I realized I'm criticizing my wife. I'm criticizing myself. I'm criticizing us. And then I take myself out and I look at my reaction deeper, right? And I take it to the point where I have to go deeper to find where this is coming from. And then I realized that I hadn't been making deposits into my emotional bank. You're supposed to give to yourself first. You are supposed to make sure, and I say this all the time, and it happens to be the first principle in the book, right? When you have your thing, your provisions, you get first. You take first, you put away first, hold on, saving for investments or whatever the case may be later. But you get first your time, your love, your compassion, your grace, your conversation, your everything. You get first. Because to live this life, you're going to give out. If you want to have healthy relationships, you're going to give out your time, love, compassion, grace, But just like on a plane, if you do not put your mask on first, right? It all ties back into me having a weak moment, me not doing what I said I would do. And there is nothing that can actually make it okay to like go back on your word. There's nothing that will make it okay for you to go back on your word. Nothing. Because it diminishes the value of what you say. It diminishes the value of when you want to. Your word is everything. when you want to get a thing. Your reputation is based on your word, right? Your reputation is based on saying that you will do a thing and then getting it done, or if you don't get it done, and then that's your measure, right? Like when we play basketball, we play in a game and you shoot, right? And there's 0 for 1 because you didn't make it. You shoot, right? And it's 0 for 2, but then you make the last 8. At that point, you're 8 for 10. What is your score when you say a thing, right? When you shoot, are you making it? Are you making sure that you know who you are? You know what you're capable of. So when you say a thing, you know that it's something that you can deliver. It's something that you can do. It's something that you've been doing. You're not doing it for somebody because they want you to do it. It's who you are. But today's message is about how I messed up. I don't believe that I had the mature or proper reaction when my grandmother passed away. So I'm not gonna lie, I was chilling. You see death from a young age. You see death from middle school. You see people getting locked up, killed, gang violence, all that. I've mentioned this before. So you also see it in the family, right? So after a while, you notice how these situations and events, you notice how it stops people. You notice how it stops you. I've always been very in tune with how I feel, right? I've been made fun of for how I feel, but I've always been very in tune with it, and I never ignored it. I was like, nah, I can't keep hitting that wall. I can't keep every time somebody dies. That can't keep happening. So you read, you figure things out, you understand different cultures, and you see upon people dying, there's celebrations, like party. You understand what I'm saying? Like, death has been something that I understand to be a part of the thing we call life, right? You live and then you die. Seasons happen, seasons change, and in the changing of seasons, you see it in the plants. It died, and then it born anew. Like the plants, they got this down. They not complaining, they not crying. They got it down to a point where we really believe that they are like unconscious. Like it's taking a certain amount of work for a scientist to be like, oh, you talk to your plants and you do this and that. Yeah, cool. What if they just got down packed that neighbor stuff? I'm just saying, peace be still stuff. Like, what if that's just real? What if they understand what they do for the world and they just do what they do? And if you do to them, they just so strong, so resilient. That was a word. Whoa. Whatever. Don't tell nobody about that. If you watch the video, you seen it. Leave it where it was at. You understand what I'm saying? Like, if they was here, they'd have seen it. We need to keep a certain order. You understand what I'm saying? But today's message is about how I messed up. So it started with my grandmother falling. A couple weeks after, she ends up in the hospital retaining water. I noticed the pattern, and I told my wife, and I tried to prep my mom, and everybody was just so positive. And I almost let them fool me. I'm not gonna lie. I almost let them fool me, and then they called, and Grandma was like, she had energy for me. She was able to talk. She was saying what's up. I ran over to my wife, let her say what's up. I knew. You understand what I'm saying? Because when that last, that's a little present for everybody, right? And then she had passed or whatever, and I wasn't in disbelief. I wasn't in shock. I was mad. I was mad because my family, all older than me, all opportunities to do a certain amount of work, couldn't recognize pattern that with just a little bit of effort and no help from them, I was able to see in our own family. Like, so I was mad at my family for not noticing the pattern and possibly doing things different, not to prevent a thing, Not to prevent a thing. You can't prevent things. Things that are destined to be will be. And I'm upset with my grandmother for starting to say she loved me. Like when I hit a quarter century already. I moved out of state, married. Did I appreciate it? Did I appreciate it? Did I call more often to hear it? Did I ask for banana bread even though I hate banana bread? Yup. Why? Relationships is important and they matter. And you don't know what you're doing for a person when you do that thing that don't cost nothing, or like, put your blink on, man. Put your blink on. Just work on your reaction. You didn't have to say it like that. Semantics. You could have used a different word. You know that word upsets her. You feel what I'm saying? But it takes a certain effort to do these things. So I was upset with my grandmother for that effort coming late. But at the same time, I had to understand everybody had their journey. This is where I messed up at though. Oh, everything tracking right now. I feel what I feel. I understand what I feel, and those could keep moving or like cycle through as they cycle through. This is when I realized my wife had never been through a death in the family, a close death. None of that. I was like, oh my God, I didn't know that. You think I would have got with her? When we met again, knowing that would have been cool. It would have been cool because I would have talked different during that time. Because I would have taught different. We would have prepared different. It's all about being prepared for certain things. You understand what I'm saying? I understood that at that point, what I felt was the right thing to do was to go back into a thing of letting the emotions be more than they need to be, feeling it more than I actually needed to feel it, just so I could show her like what it looked. Cause the way she was over my grandmother, I was like, oh shit, she had been building with them. And our relationship with her family is not what we want her relationship with her family to be like. So when she was building with my grandmother or whatever, while it may have been only a couple of years, the love was genuine, it was true, it was priceless, right? So now, my wife is distraught over the fact that my grandmother has passed. And I'm like, that's not your grandmother. In my head. I'm not saying that out loud. I'm like, that's not your grandmother. Like, what's up with you? It's like, yo, bro, you have set your mind such a way for so long to protect yourself from feeling like that. Right now, what you might have to do is dip back into maneuvering through those feelings. So when your wife actually loses somebody, you can be the example of what it should look like when you go through that. You feel what I'm saying? Because, like I said in the beginning, some of those things are the things that will, help a marriage dissolve.